Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you had a fabulous Super Bowl. I did not have a good gambling Super Bowl. I did not win on my prize picks either. We'll dive into everything. Trump, Taylor Swift, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, all that and more. But I want to tell you right off the top, All-Star Weekend almost here. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching your favorite players during the game and the Saturday night events like the three-point contest. Download the app today. Use code OutKick to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code OutKick, $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Easy to play. You can play in California. You can play in Texas. You can play in Georgia. And you get $50. Do it today. Prize Picks. Run your game. Okay, I want to start here. Jalen Hurts is an incredible story. I think his story is being underplayed. This is a guy who was benched at halftime of the national title game. I was at that game. I was on the sideline when Tua, I think it was it second and 26 or third and 26? I don't remember the exact distance. Hits Devontae Smith down the sideline for a walk-off overtime victory. Georgia had dominated that game. They should have put it away. It was in Atlanta. It was an all-SEC title game, and Tua came in and won it for Alabama. Jalen Hurts was benched, lost his starting job. Did he later come in and help when Tua got injured? Yes. But it's one of the most humiliating experiences you can possibly imagine, to be the starting quarterback, to have never lost a game, and to get yanked out of your starting role at halftime, and then watch on the sideline as Tua led the team to a national championship. Second and 26. I remember that well, the 26 yards, because the next year I played golf with Kirby Smart at the Regions Pro-Am Classic in Birmingham, Alabama, and everywhere we walked on the course, people from Alabama would yell out that the distance looked like it was about 26 on the back end of whatever yardage it was. Kirby took it in stride. I didn't even notice it at first. People were like, hey, I think you need, that looks like about 226, Kirby. Kirby, that looks about 126. Hey, well, you better get out a new club, Kirby. I mean, he took it all day from Alabama fans as he and I were walking around on that course, like a 6-hour round. I like Kirby, by the way. Awesome dude. But you know what Jalen Hurts didn't do? He didn't pout. He didn't throw a fit. Yes, he eventually transferred because he wanted to be a starting quarterback at Oklahoma. But he took it. One of the toughest benchings I have ever seen in college football. He took it. He was mentally tough. He used it as fuel, and he got himself drafted late in the second round. A lot of people said he didn't have the skill set to win at a high level. 2 years ago, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes, but his team lost. And then he came back last night, and now he's the Super Bowl MVP. It's a great lesson for your kids, for your grandkids, for heck, adults. You are going to get knocked down. You are going to have people doubt you. You may even doubt yourself at some point in time. But if you can be mentally tough enough to rise up despite all of the slings and arrows of outrageous challenge, you too can be a Super Bowl champion and a Super Bowl MVP in whatever chosen endeavor you have. And I know a huge part of Michael Jordan's overall appeal for those of us who are of roughly my era, was that Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. And then he went on to become the greatest basketball player, in my opinion, of all time. Now, he also grew like 6 inches. That's a fairly impactful part of the story. But he didn't quit. He didn't whine. He didn't turn tail. To me, there is a football analogy with what happened to Jalen Hurts. I don't know that I've ever seen someone benched in a more prominent fashion in a bigger game in college football history. That would have broken a lot of people. It didn't break Jalen Hurts. He was mentally and physically tough enough to have that happen to him, come back, get better, and win a far bigger game, the Super Bowl with over 100 million people watching. That's a hell of an inspiration. To say nothing of the fact that he supported Tua, that he kept the right attitude, that he didn't bail immediately. I think Jalen Hurts is a tremendous inspiration. So that's point one. Point two, Patrick Mahomes. What do we think? Well, hold on. Let me stick on Jalen Hurts here for a minute. I don't know if we have the image. ESPN put out a tweet saying that Jalen Hurts is indicative of black excellence because he joined Doug Williams, Russell Wilson, there it is, and Patrick Mahomes to become the 4th black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. And let me just say this. There's the shot up on the screen. The ESPN should be embarrassed. Jalen Hurts is not an example of black excellence. He's an example of excellence. Every single athlete, white, black, Asian, and Hispanic, should aspire to excellence. Your race should have nothing to do with the goal of you being excellent in your chosen craft. In fact, it's demeaning to say that Jalen Hurts is black excellence because what it presumes is that black excellence is rare. Excellence is rare. Excellence in all facets is rare. But Jalen's not great because he's black. And Cooper DeJean didn't make a huge interception and become the first white cornerback to ever score a pick six. It's not white excellence. It's excellence. And I thought about this. You may have just heard me talking about it on Clay and Buck in the context of the awful NFL flag football ad that they ran where a minority girl shows up, Chad and Brad. She's way better at flag football than they were. They're the best, but she's better because she's a girl. Yay, girl power. All this BS woke identity politics, it needs to go away forever. I want everybody to be excellent. White, black, Asian, and Hispanic, male, female. I want all of you to aspire to be the best at whatever craft you presume to pursue. But the idea that you should be demeaned and defined based on your identity as opposed to your excellence, to me is insulting. First of all, no girl in flag football is going to be better than the best boys in flag football. That's just not going to happen. So you're selling me an artificial bill of goods. You're also comparing two different things. Men are going to be better than women in sports because they're bigger, stronger, faster. That doesn't mean that women shouldn't play or that girls shouldn't play flag football. I actually think it makes a lot of sense. All of my boys played flag football because I didn't want them getting tackled when they were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. We didn't play tackle football, let my kids play tackle football until they got to middle school. You can argue that's too soon, but that's the age that their mom and I decided was the appropriate age to play tackle football. But you can learn a lot playing flag football. You can learn route running. You can learn how to read a play. You can learn how to dodge a tackle. You can learn how to space, how to play zone, how to play man. Like, boys and girls can gain a lot from playing flag football. It's a great sport. But don't tell me that identity politics should govern this. And I said about the Jalen Hurts example there, they would never post something that said white excellence. Jokic has won, I think, 3 MVPs in the NBA. I think Steve Nash won a couple of MVPs in the NBA. That's excellence. It's not white excellence. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls. That's excellence. It's not white excellence. Sports is a meritocracy. Your race should not in any way inhibit you from being able to pursue excellence. Putting your race and excellence actually demeans because it makes it appear that you should be celebrated because your race is not often very excellent. But again, I said excellence is actually rare. But I think there's lots of black people and Asian people and Hispanic people and white people who are excellent at their chosen fields. And ESPN just continues to divide us. You heard me start the show off today. Jalen Hurts' story is one that I think every kid out there who's ever struggled in sports or life should know. He was mentally tough enough to deal with being benched. Maybe your kid just failed an algebra test. Maybe you took the ACT and it didn't go as well as you hoped. Maybe you wanted to get into an AP course and you didn't make honors. All of us are going to be facing a great deal of slaps in the face, doors slammed, firings. It's not what happens to you. It's how you respond to it. You know, when I was in 7th grade, there was this quote, I think it was attributed to Reggie Jackson, to Jesse Jackson, politician, not the baseball player. And it said, your aptitude is not going to ultimately determine your altitude. It's your attitude. That is, how you respond to life's challenges ultimately are going to lead to whether you rise to a high level or not. And that at its essence to me is what sports is about, because most of us are not going to play in the Super Bowl. Most of us are not going to play college football or college basketball or college soccer. Some of you will. All of us at some point in time, though, are going to take off that jersey for the last time. For me, it was in high school. For some of you, it might have been in college. For some of you, it might have been in pros. But what is the lesson that you're going to take away? Are you going to allow the ball to use you, or are you going to use the ball going forward? That's why I want my kids to play. That's why I think sports is important, to learn how to win, to learn how to lose, to put everything you have into something and not be capable of getting what you wanted, to work for a reward instead of instantaneously getting it, to put everything you have into something and still lose. Jalen Hurts took one of the most embarrassing, difficult moments in college football when he got benched for Tua on the biggest possible stage, and he had a choice. It could have broken him, or it could have strengthened him. It strengthened him to such an extent that last night he became a Super Bowl MVP. I think it's an incredible story, and I hope you'll share it with your kids. What do we learn about Patrick Mahomes? He wasn't good. Patrick Mahomes played really poorly in the first half when essentially this game was decided. And for now, I think we can stop all the GOAT talk about Patrick Mahomes. And I've been guilty of that because he's been to 5 Super Bowls in 7 years, and the only 2 times in the 7 years that he hasn't been to the Super Bowl, he lost in overtime. I expected he and the Chiefs to win last night. Instead, they got embarrassed. They got smoked. Congratulations to the Eagles. Patrick Mahomes now 3-2 in his 5 Super Bowls. Eagle defensive line dominated the Chief offensive line. Mahomes wasn't able to have time to throw. The pursuit of the three-peat seems to have motivated the Eagle defensive line. And that's the worst I've seen the Chiefs beat in a big game in the Mahomes era. Think about it. 7 years, 5 Super Bowls, 2 overtime losses in the AFC Championship game. Mahomes actually, if you go back and look, hasn't been that great in his Super Bowls at the start. First quarter, second quarter data, not very good. It's taken the Chiefs a little while to get going. But that first half that they put forward was awful, truly atrocious. And I think we have to hit a pause. Brady's calling the game. I think we have to hit a pause on analyzing this. All right, so congratulations to the Eagles. Off the field, pop culture related stories. Let's start with Trump during the national anthem being cheered in New Orleans, as I predicted that he would. I believe we have a video of Trump inside of the Superdome. This is what it sounded like during the national anthem. Watch. Okay, so Trump is cheered. What does this tell us? First, it comes in concert with a CBS News poll that showed Trump with an overall 53% approval rating, the highest of his political career, and also having 60% male approval. I don't remember the last time an American president had 60% male approval. That's a landslide in our modern 50-50 era for Trump, according to CBS, to be plus 20 on men. Most of the men in the stadium, most of the people in the stadium there, I would probably say 70-30 are male. I think that's one reason Trump got cheered. Second part here, young people, plus 10 in approval rating for Trump, which is a seismic difference compared to prior Trump approval ratings in the first term. I believe, and I said this on Fox News this morning, I think that players, coaches, and GMs, executives, I think they voted for Trump. You saw Chris Jones, standout defensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs, big Chiefs fan, seek out Trump to shake his hand. Patrick Mahomes' family all came into the booth to get their picture taken with Trump. Patrick Mahomes, I believe, certainly his wife Brittany, voted for Trump. They are big Trump people. In fact, we shared Randy Mahomes wanted OutKick to know that she was endorsing Trump. You may remember that we shared that video that she sent to us. Also, Tyreek Hill came out and said that he would have been honored to play in front of Trump. You had Pac-Man Jones show up at the SI swimsuit party on Saturday night wearing a MAGA hat. I believe the majority of NFL players, coaches, executives voted Trump. And I think the majority of NFL fans voted Trump. And the fact that Eagle fans, Philadelphia is a blue city, were overwhelmingly alongside of Chiefs fans cheering, I think reflected that. Okay, so that's my take on Trump. Smart of him to go, smart of him to be there. For the first ever sitting president to be at the Super Bowl. We had never had one before. We've had first ladies, we've had former presidents, we've had vice presidents, but I think it was smart of Trump to go there, to say nothing of the fact, which is also key, that he was there to pay homage to the memory of the 14 individuals who were killed in a terror attack on Bourbon Street on New Year's Day, early in the morning of New Year's Day. So that, to me, is emblematic and stands out associated with that. All right, so Taylor Swift, I believe we have audio of her being booed, and I want to pull that up so that you can all hear that as well. Taylor Swift shown during the game. I believe this was on the Jumbotron inside of the stadium. Everybody booed. Listen. Okay, a lot of people are saying, hey, this is politics. I don't agree with that at all. Taylor Swift rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs. Majority of the fans in the stadium were Philadelphia Eagle fans. They're booing her, in my opinion, to a large extent. The majority of them are because she's the girlfriend of a Kansas City Chiefs player. I also think, so that's number one, why she got booed. I also think a secondary aspect here, for those who were not fans of either team, a lot of people are just tired of 2 years of incessant Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce relationship coverage. Oh, she's always in the suite. Everybody's reacting to her. I think a lot of people are just over the story. They feel like it has been overplayed. Third, there may have been some people reacting because Trump was cheered and they disagree with the politics of Taylor Swift, who endorsed Kamala Harris in the immediate aftermath, if I remember correctly, of the first debate. So I think there were three factors here. I think politics was actually the smallest of the three factors. That's my analysis of Taylor Swift. Now, halftime show. Kendrick Lamar was the worst halftime performer that the NFL Super Bowl, in my opinion, has ever seen in terms of overall enjoyment of his performance by the average fan. Most people don't know him. Rap doesn't translate that well to a big stadium. I didn't think the audio was very well broken out. He's got so many lyrics that are unplayable that they had to constantly bleep out things. I think the vast majority of the 100 million plus people watching this performance thought, like I did, that it was crap. There are other people that I think would have been a far better choice. My top two, Morgan Wallen, Taylor Swift. Some of you are going to be stunned by this. I'm going to defend Taylor Swift first. I like Taylor Swift's music. I disagree with her politics. I think she has awful choice in who she votes for. But I think that Taylor Swift, as musicians go, is actually a pretty good role model for little girls. She writes her own music. She is a very talented business person. She is incredibly hardworking. All of those things, if I had a 10 or 12-year-old girl, would be things that would appeal to me in terms of what she could learn from a singer. She typically is dressed fairly well, right? Meaning she doesn't have her body parts flashed everywhere all the time. I think as musicians go, Taylor Swift for girls is about as good of a role model as you can get. Hasn't been married, doesn't have kids out of wedlock, hasn't been arrested that I know of, doesn't appear to regularly use drugs or alcohol to excess. All of those things to me are what I would want my daughter to aspire to if she were going to be a fan of a musician. Now, parents should be the ultimate role model. I'm not saying that somehow you shouldn't be responsible for your own kids. I'm just saying, as musicians go, Taylor Swift's about as good as it gets for a female musician. Everybody knows her songs. She plays stadiums all the time. She is familiar with knowing how to work a huge stadium arena, which most musicians don't, frankly, do and don't have that much experience with. I think she would kill. Now, when her boyfriend is in the game, does that make it more difficult? Yes. Probably shouldn't play the game until Travis Kelce retires or they break up. All those things, yes, totally. But I think Taylor Swift would be a great choice. I think Morgan Wallen would be an incredible choice. He's selling out NFL stadiums all over the country. He's got a lot of songs that people know. He also knows how to play a stadium. He would put on a show. I just think it's not a difficult call. The goal of a Super Bowl performer halftime should be to have the biggest possible audience with the largest number of people imaginable who know your top songs. And also, frankly, have songs that don't have to be completely edited in order to be able to play the songs on television without there being FCC violations. To me, this is not a challenging situation. I think the NFL blew it with Kendrick Lamar. And there are other rappers that I thought were great. I thought the NFL killed it when they had Dr. Dre, Snoop, Eminem. I think Kendrick Lamar was a part of that too. Was it the LA Super Bowl halftime show? I thought that was amazing. There are ways to do big time rap performances inside of a stadium venue in a super entertaining way. But everybody knows those guys because they've been around since the 90s and the early 2000s. Everybody, when the bars start on the song, you know who they are. That's not true for most people with Kendrick Lamar. The goal should not be to only appeal to a small segment of the overall audience. Okay. Final thoughts. New Orleans. I got back. I was on the field yesterday. I flew back because I wanted to watch the game with my boys. I don't know how many more Super Bowls I get to watch with them. New Orleans was a fabulous host city. It's been 12 years, I believe, since New Orleans last hosted a Super Bowl. I think the number is 11 total Super Bowls that have been played in the Superdome and or played in New Orleans. It's one of the 5 best cities for Super Bowls, in my opinion, in the country. It's very walkable. In fact, it's my number one. It's a city that is founded to a large extent on hospitality and tourism. Great bar scene, great restaurant scene. If you've never been to a Super Bowl town, the traffic is atrocious. Being able to walk everywhere, from your hotel to the stadium, to the bars, to the restaurants, everything else, is what, in my opinion, makes New Orleans number one overall. Second best city now. Last year they had it, Vegas. Many of the same aspects. Also, the weather was perfect. Can't really control the weather, but in general, in the South, the weather's going to be better. I like L.A., but it's much more spread out. I like Phoenix. Again, Glendale is a long way from Scottsdale, which is, in my opinion, the best part of Phoenix. And I like Miami. But the Miami Stadium is a long way from the beachside communities. So those would be the 5 best, in my opinion. I think Nashville's going to get in the rotation at some point in time. And all of that is a credit to the people of New Orleans. The mayor and the governor kept everything safe. We had the governor on Clay and Buck. I also met him on the field before the game. I think New Orleans is moving in the right direction in terms of trying to arrest violent criminals, make the city safe, not only for the residents, but also for the tourists. They need to continue to work on that because the crime rate, my understanding is, got out of control for a while. But I've always loved New Orleans. It's a fabulous place for a big game. I've been to a lot of big games, national titles and Super Bowls there before, and I think it should be in the rotation for years to come, breaking all that down. Tomorrow, I will be in Chicago. I'm speaking at the University of Chicago, a panel discussion on the election that was just finished. So I'm flying up to Chicago and back. I will not do an OutKick show. I will not be on Clay and Buck. I'll be back with all of you on Wednesday to break down everything in the world of sports, politics, pop culture, and more. Also, I'll break down Aaron Rodgers news dropping from Jay Glazer that he was done with the Jets and will be a free agent. We'll talk about that and more. There's a lot of details associated with that. But I just want to say again, thanks to our crew. Lots of incredible work last week. Lots of our stage was phenomenal. We had cars driving around with OutKick advertisements. I'm incredibly optimistic about what we can continue to build at OutKick now that the football season is over. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP, I am Clay Travis, and this has been OutKick, the show.